And let's continue our coverage of this important CPC Central Committee meeting with insight. We have two analysts joining us, one from Beijing and another from New York. Daniel Levin is an advisor to governments on political and economic development. And Wang Xuewen is a former deputy chief of International Business Daily. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. There are so many legal reforms noted in the communique, including one that says that any attempted influence on a case by any official would be noted. The official would be publicly named, and the communique also noted the protection of human rights in court cases. So does that mean that the legal system will be more independent? Mr. Wang, let's start with you.
Yes, the human rights will be better prepared according to the communique. And after the rule of law is realized in China, the right of individuals, including even suspects, will be well protected in court. And it is also mentioned that the right of Chinese citizens and Chinese legal persons abroad will also be protected through law. And the Chinese and the foreign citizens working in China and foreign legal persons in China, these entities, enterprises, their rights will also be protected through law. So that is a big step forward.
Mr. Levin, there's also an attempt to set up circuit courts and allow for the filing of public interest lawsuits. How difficult will be this for this to be implemented?
I think this is
this is the first time that
I'm so sorry, Mr. Levin.
Yeah, sorry. This is, I think, a huge challenge. We're talking about a situation where you have currently 3,500 courts in China, 20,000 judges, 15 million cases being heard a year. So to add layers of new courts is going to be a tremendous logistical challenge, and these are all judges and legal clerks that need to be trained, they need to be qualified and selected. So this is a massive undertaking logistically, also in terms of human resources.
I'd like to get both of your takes on. I'd like to get both of your takes on this next question. Will the highest levels of Chinese leadership be subject to the rule of law? Mr. Wang, let's start with you.
Certainly, and it is clearly mentioned in the communique that all the people, including political parties, government organizations, and top officials, must confine their activities within the framework of constitution and law. And the top leaders should take the lead in abiding the law, in their daily activities, in administering the country. So no problem. They must set an example for the whole party. Otherwise, for the whole party and for the whole country. Otherwise, it is impossible to carry on rule of law.
Mr. Levin, do you think the highest levels of Chinese leadership will be subject to the rule of law?
Well, certainly if the last few months and years are any indication of things to come, yes, I think that it has been made very clear that that no one is more equal before the law, if you will, that this applies to everybody, the rule of law. And when you investigate now even former standing committee members of the Politburo, as has taken place, then it is very clear that no one is exempted from the rule of law. I think that is a message that has been sent quite clearly.
Among the points in the communique, the CPC Central Committee is calling for the country to be ruled more in line with the Constitution. Will promoting the Constitution help curb corruption, Mr. Wang?
Sure. The Constitution is the core of all the laws. It is the basis for the whole country to carry on political activities and economic activities. And the role, the authority of the Constitution was emphasized, well, to an unprecedented scale this time. So all the other laws we are going to pass should be based on the Constitution. And hopefully there will be a committee set up within the National People's Congress, and that's my personal idea, for examining the implementation of the Constitution. Anybody who violates the Constitution will be dealt with by that committee, I think, in the future.
Sure, and continuing on with the Constitution outlines rights of people should have things like owning property, the right to criticize any state body, and equal rights for women. Since the CPC is advocating a stricter adherence to the Constitution, are there going to be any changes that Chinese people will see in everyday life, Mr. Levin?
You know, it's the easy answer is, of course, to say yes, but it's a more complex issue. The Constitution any constitution of any country is a man-made document. This is not the Ten Commandments given to Moses on Mount Sinai. This is not the Oracle of Delphi. These are man-made documents, and they come to life when you implement a constitution, not just in form, but also in substance and in spirit. When that does not occur, when there is no implementation in its substance and spirit, then the constitution is nothing but a dead piece of paper. So I do believe that it will depend very much on how much meat is put on those bones, with how much vigor this is really going to be pursued, all the way down to the most local, provincial levels. And then you will see a change in people's lives. This will take a while, of course, as we mentioned earlier. It will take a long time to implement the quality of the courts, the judicial independence, the lack of political or commercial interference in courts. All that will take a while. But if there's a will to do so in substance, then yes, you will see a significant, potentially game-changing change.
Okay, so it could take a while. Mr. Wang, take our international audience into the process in China. Now that this communique has been issued, what is the next step? Is there going to be more discussion before we see some implementation?
I think the communique laid down the general principles and general orientation for China going towards a rule of law. But we need to do more work after the fourth plenary session, for instance, to pass specific and detailed regulations, stipulations, to realize, to implement all the principles passed, mentioned in the communique. So it takes time. I'm sure changes will take place in China, and even great changes, well, quite different from before. But it will take time. Because in China, in my opinion, there is a sort of inertia of neglecting the law or fail to pay enough attention to the law. Yes, during the Cultural Revolution, everybody knows, at that time, nobody cared a damn to the Constitution. And the present reform of going towards the rule of law almost began at the same time as the beginning of the reform and opening up. They go side by side. They promote each other. And I'm sure the present plenary session of the ruling party will be a sort of milestone in China's way towards the rule of law.
All right, Mr. Wang in Beijing, Mr. Levin in New York City, thank you both for joining us on our show.